I did my book report or my book review on A Square Meal. This was by Jane Ziegelman and Andrew Coe. It was published in 2016, and it's basically about the meals, how they have evolved from what they were in the late 1800s through the 1930s, which was about when the Great Depression happened. It starts off a little bit by talking about how life was like back in the late 1800s, and farming, and what the woman's job was as a homemaker, making meals, churning butter. She worked out in the garden, she scrubbed clothes, just the typical farmer's wife jobs back in that time. They ate everything that they made or grew. They had their own meat, they had their own vegetables. I was reading one part where it was talking about how they made pies, and they made enough pies. Sometimes they would make, between 6 and 12 pies a day. And they never worried about calories or how much they were eating because they were working so hard. It just wasn't a thing back then. Fast forward to the early 1900s, between the 1900s and the 1920s, and they started moving towards the city life. It talked about how women were, it was talking a lot about their diet and all these fad diets, and it talked about the Hollywood diet. It talked about tiny portions, and it was saying how they were basically starving. They were malnourished, and they weren't getting enough nutrients, they weren't getting enough vitamins, and so it talked a little bit about that. And that's when the Great Depression happened. It said how some people that had moved from the farms to the cities, they went back to farm life, and they kind of went back to their old ways, and they were doing really good for a while until thieves started coming and stealing their chickens, stealing their milk off their front porch. It talked about how some people would sleep with guns in their beds. That was going on. And so the farmers, they were doing really good, but then that started happening, and they started losing all of their, everything that they had raised, things that they had worked hard for. And they started to become, poor too. So then it fast forward, that was during the 1920s, early 1930s. Then President Roosevelt, came up with the New Deal, which that included, relief programs and, ways for people to get food, ways for people to get stamps to buy things. He also created thousands and thousands of jobs because they were trying to improve infrastructure, which, sounds kind of familiar now. But anyway, they were trying to improve roads, improve bridges, railways, stuff like that. And that created a lot of jobs, which actually helped the United States and our country get out of that Great Depression time. So that's kind of, it ended kind of like that, where it was talking about how he had created a lot of jobs during that time. Anyway, I thought it was, I did read this whole book, cover to cover. I read every word on every page. I will say that I liked the book. It wasn't a super easy read. It took me a while. I would say it was good just to know. It was a good book to learn about, you know, how food had evolved during the Great Depression time. I probably wouldn't read this again. I'm just not a huge reader as far as, you know, factual history books. It's just not my thing. I like more fun books. I like books that really get you, you know, sucked in. This was not one of them. It was more dry. It was good, but it was just a little bit more dry for my liking. For my lesson plan, what I was planning to do with my classroom is I thought it would be really fun to show a video, you know, a short little video on, you know, the Great Depression, a little clip of it, and, you know, talk a little bit about it, maybe have a PowerPoint too to go along with that. But I really thought it'd be cool to split the class up and have some kids be farmers, some kids be thieves, some be people that had moved to the city. Anyway, I thought it'd be really cool to kind of split everybody up and give them some fake money, give them some fake goods, and let them kind of trade and see, you know, the thieves would go and steal from the farmers and just kind of see what they would do and how hard it was back then. And anyway, I just thought it would be fun, kind of like I don't know, just kind of like an imaginative play type thing, but it would be for older kids so they could actually see what it was like back then. Anyway, I thought it'd be really cool to do something like that. So anyway, it was a good book. I would recommend it if you wanted to know more about the Great Depression and how meals evolved, you know, and how food evolved during that time. If you're running a fun read, I would not recommend it. So anyway, Square Meal, pretty good book, and that's it.